This week on Africa Update, South Africa, Egypt in talks with Putin over Russia-Ukraine crisis as Nigeria bans citizens from joining fight in Ukraine. Tension in Libya following move by parliament-backed prime minister to take office. Moderna to set up mRNA vaccine manufacturing facility in Kenya. Plus, the story of Tanzanian female boxer eyeing to break gender bias with her fist. Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Africa Update, where we review stories from across the African continent. I am Ayubelia. Thank you for joining us. Now, 10 South African students arrive at Johannesburg's or Tambo International Airport from Poland after fleeing the conflict in Ukraine. A total of 25 students were stranded in the neighboring countries of Hungary, Poland and Romania, unable to afford emergency flights back home following Russia's invasion. The South African government funded their return together with pharmaceutical firm Aspen. The students, many of whom have limited resources, were forced to flee the Ukraine into neighboring countries in the wake of the raging armed conflict. African citizens are amongst the thousands of people evacuated from the besieged Ukrainian city of Sumy. Hundreds of students from the continent had been stuck in the city since Russian forces invaded. Meanwhile, President Cyril Ramaphosa says South Africa had been asked to mediate in the Russia-Ukraine conflict and that he had told his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin in a phone call it should be settled through negotiations. Ramaphosa did not say who made the request or give more details on how he planned to work with the two sides. According to the president, South Africa, being a member of emerging market group of Brazil, Russia, India and China, has been approached to play a mediation role. There were no immediate announcements from Moscow or Kyiv confirming South Africa's role. South Africa's ruling African National Congress has strong historical ties with the former Soviet Union, which provided training and support to anti-apartheid activists during the Cold War era. In a similar vein, Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin spoke on Wednesday, the Egyptian presidency said, to discuss the latest developments in Ukraine. Sisi and Putin also discussed enhancing strategic cooperation frameworks between their countries through joint development projects, confirming historic ties between them. Now, in Egypt, annual inflation reached 10% in February, the highest since mid-2019, according to the National Statistics Agency, as the war in Ukraine pushes up prices worldwide. In February 2021, this rate was at a peak of 4.9%, according to CAPMAS. By February 2022, it had exploded to 10% as prices for food and beverages, including vegetables, fruit, bread and cereals rose by 20.1%, the government agency said. Already in July 2017, inflation had reached an all-time high of 34.2% before coming down again. By May 2019, it had fallen back to 11%. Russia and Ukraine account for about a third of global wheat imports, of which Egypt is world's largest importer. Nigeria says it will not allow its nationals to join the fight in Ukraine, where Russian forces are bombing cities and rattling neighborhoods with gunfire for weeks now. This follows reports of alleged recruitment of volunteers in the country to fight for Ukraine. Nigeria's foreign ministry said the Ukrainian embassy has denied any role in the alleged exercise. However, the embassy confirmed that a number of Nigerians had approached it indicating willingness to join the war, according to a statement on March 7th signed by Francisca Omar Yuli, spokesperson for the ministry. The embassy also distanced itself from claims that it was requesting $1,000 from each Nigerian volunteer for an air ticket and visa. This comes days after Senegal warned against volunteers enlisting to fight against Russians in Ukraine. It also ordered the Ukrainian ambassador to take down a Facebook post that had called on Senegalese volunteers to enlist in the war. Now, after 2 years of being shut, Rwanda's borders opened on Monday to ordinary citizens from Uganda, Tanzania and the Republic of Congo. According to the Rwandan authorities, the decision to reopen the border was based on progress achieved in the fight against coronavirus. Residents can now move freely between countries, visiting relatives and transporting goods. The only exception is Burundi, that has not reciprocated the gesture and is keeping the border with Rwanda closed. According to the Burundian authorities, the only obstacle remaining is the issue surrounding the alleged perpetrators of the attempted coup in Burundi in 2015. Burundi demands that the alleged suspect, currently living in exile in Rwanda, be handed over before normal relations are resumed. Ministers of justice from the two countries met last Friday in Kigali, but no progress was reported. An armed convoy affiliated with Libya's parliament-backed prime minister moved towards Tripoli before turning back as he seeks a way to take office in the capital despite the incumbent refusing to cede power. The parliament swore in Fathi Bashaga as prime minister more than a week ago, promising to arrive in Tripoli within 2 days to take over the government there peacefully. However, an attempt to install Bashaga in the capital could ignite fighting between armed factions that support him and others that back the incumbent Abdulhamid al-Biba, who says he will only leave office after an election. Military sources said that the convoy set out from Misrata but was unable to find a route into Tripoli without meeting opposition from factions that back Biba. Bashaga's office said that the convoy was a security force not seeking a war and that it had returned to its previous base in response to demands from international and regional friends. Now, the United Nations, together with the EU and United States, have appealed for calm as tensions escalate between Libya's two executives. The incumbent Tripoli cabinet, which emerged from UN-sponsored political agreement, is headed by outgoing Prime Minister Abdulhamid Biba, who has so far refused to relinquish power. Images and videos of convoys of armed militia vehicles circulated on the social networks. The images suggest preparations for entry into the capital, Tripoli. Many fear a return to the civil war that followed the overthrow of Muammar Gaddafi's regime in 2011. Meanwhile, Libya's national oil company has announced the suspension of oil production from two major fields. According to a statement released on social media, production was interrupted after an armed group shut down the valves delivering the crude. The statement added that the closure is causing losses of 330,000 barrels per day and a daily loss of around 32 million euros. Since the fall of Muammar Gaddafi's regime in 2011, that Libya has been involved in more than a decade of civil unrest. According to the NOC, the armed group led by a certain Mohammed Al-Gaj had already closed the valves several times between 2014 and 2016. Still from Libya, the Transitional Council of Ministers, headed by Abdulhamid Biba, has suspended the implementation of an agreement with the United Nations on gender equality. The decision was taken on the eve of International Women's Rights Day at a government meeting last week. According to the official statement, the suspension was taken as a precaution in view of the conflict of some of its articles with the provisions of Islamic Sharia. This step has sparked widespread controversy among Libyans and fears that this could contradict Libyan legislation and laws as well as religious values. Egyptian female judge Radwa Helmi was appointed for the State Council, a top court in Egypt. The appointment follows a decision by President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi last year to allow women to join the council, one of Egypt's main judicial bodies. For other female judges, the president's decision is a step in the right direction in the fight against social prejudice. Judge Yasmin Helmi added that the social debate revolving around females assuming judge position is not related to the job itself, but rather to the social and cultural awareness in that period and people not accepting women on the judges' bench or even working within the judiciary. Women currently hold about a quarter of cabinet posts and some 168 seats in the 569-member parliament. You're watching Africa Update, still ahead. The story of Tanzanian female boxer eyeing to break gender bias with her fist. Details and more shortly.
The idea was to give the interim government confidence that there is somebody, a military man, who is well known, who can be accepted.
You alluded to the case of your son, Umar Farouk. Are you in touch with him?
Yes, he phones us 2 times, sometimes 3 times in a month.
As always, when I'm talking about late Abiola, I still thank my God for directing me on things to do when he gave me that leadership of this country.
Many of you honest Fulanis, you allow this man to cast aspersion on you.
You know, Zamfara is the mother of all bandits.
The biggest problem, if you permit me, is the fact that we have not been able to get the totality of our citizenry.
It's very, very difficult to have a fixed mind like that this one you will hand over to this person because you think you will do better.
I don't see myself under no circumstance ever leaving APC for another political party.
Here on the Mambila Plateau. And this is where the hydroelectric power dam is supposed to be constructed.
Most people in Nigeria are ignorant of the fact that employing a child as a maid is in fact against the law.
Access to the textile mill has been very difficult.
I believe, or I think that if you want to make money, it should be in a place where there are not plenty of people that can do what you do.
From the way things are happening now, I don't think the two parties will make an impact.
I've been talking about the updates concerning the campaign of Nigerian Super Eagles in Abuja.
Bola Tinubu has informed President Muhammadu Buhari of his ambition to contest for the position of president.
To be self-reliant, a blind man defies all odds to become a carpenter in Gombe State.
The country is now experiencing a 4th wave of the COVID-19 pandemic with the emergence of the Omicron variant.
Talks are ongoing between NRC management and the union.
Thanks for staying. You're watching Africa Update. And here's a look at the top stories again. South Africa, Egypt in talks with Putin over Russia-Ukraine crisis as Nigeria bans citizens from joining fight in Ukraine. Plus, tension in Libya following move by parliament-backed Prime Minister to take office. Now, the Lieutenant General, son of Uganda's president, has reportedly said he had retired from the military in a move widely seen as preparing the ground for a potential run for the presidency in 2026. Critics of President Yoweri Museveni say Muhoozi, who has been in the military for more than 20 years, was rushed through the ranks by his father. Many Ugandans believe that the president's son is being groomed to succeed his father. Museveni, 77, who has ruled the East African country since 1986, has repeatedly denied accusations he wanted to hand over power to his son, although Muhoozi's supporters say he has a right to seek the country's presidency like any other citizens. Human rights groups, Uganda opposition and government critics have long accused his father of using the military to keep himself in power through intimidation and jailing his opponents. Museveni was re-elected in January last year, beating pop star turned politician Bobi Wine. Wine rejected the results, alleging widespread irregularities. Meanwhile, President Yoweri Museveni's son has not retired from the Ugandan army despite his social media announcement. The army spokesperson, Brigadier General Felix Kulaigai, says Lieutenant General Muhoozi is still active and has not even applied for retirement. General Muhoozi, on Tuesday, 8 March, posted on Twitter that he had retired from the army after 28 years of service. Hours after the tweet went viral, a video of the first son with his close friend, journalist Andrew Mwenda, was released. In the video, the general insisted he will only retire in 8 years. Mwenda said the retirement tweet was an error by the president's son's social media handlers. Burkina Faso's interim president, Paul-Henri Damiba, has approved a new government that includes the same defense minister as served under former President Roch Kabore before his ouster in a military coup, an official decree showed. Damiba was inaugurated as transitional president for 3 years after leading a group of officers to oust Kabore in January. They said that they were motivated by frustration about mounting violence by terrorists. The new government of 25 ministers includes Defense Minister General Barthélemy Simpo, who has retained the position he held under Kabore, according to the decree. Now, Moderna has said it will set up a manufacturing facility in Kenya, its first in Africa, to produce messenger RNA vaccines, including COVID-19 shots. Moderna said it expects to invest about $500 million in the Kenyan facility and supply as many as 500 million doses of mRNA vaccines to the continent each year. It also has plans to start filling doses of its COVID vaccine in Africa as early as 2023. The World Health Organization last year set up a tech transfer hub in South Africa to give poorer nations the know-how to produce COVID-19 vaccines and has been trying to get Moderna and Pfizer to join in its efforts. However, in September, a senior WHO official said there had not been much progress in talks with Moderna. Now, at least 5 people, including 3 children, have died, with more than 15 others injured after a building collapsed in Abidjan, Ivory Coast. The 4-story building collapsed in the city's Angre district. According to multiple testimonies, the owner of the building had been alarmed on the risk. Tenants told local media they found cracks. Ivorian Prime Minister Patrick Archie said an investigation will be opened. The incident comes more than a week after another building under construction collapsed in another part of Abidjan, killing 7 people. Angre district has undergone a real estate boom in recent years, and some property developer paid no heed to safety rules. Now, after a 1-year hiatus due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the Hadisi Urban Festival, the annual fiesta celebrating street art, returned to Goma, a city in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, with female artists and women's empowerment under the spotlight. Dancers, musicians, graffiti artists across the Central African country gathered in Goma, turning the city's sidewalks, back streets and alleys into stages in hopes of breaking down the fourth wall separating them from the audience. Take a look.
La lutte pour les droits de la femme ne doivent pas seulement se faire au mois de mars. La lutte, elle est toujours continuelle. La femme, elle peut aussi faire tout comme l'homme est capable de faire.
Now, all talk about gender bias can be broken with strong fists like mine, says Helen Ernest Njau, also known as Pendo Njau. Njau, a mother of 3 children, is a boxer, a boxing referee, and a boxing judge based in Tanzania's commercial capital of Dar es Salaam. Her dream is to empower young girls with training them in boxing. She believes their livelihoods could improve through boxing. Take a look.
Itabidi uwe flexible.
59 to 56.
Yaani kwanza sasa hivi natafuta udhamini mkubwa sana ambaye natamani sana siku moja hapa mkija mkute kuna wanawake wasichana ambaye zaidi hata 20-30, na wito ambao sasa hivi uliokuepo tunakutana hapa kwa Kaseba saa 4:30 na nawakaribisha wanawake wote kwa sababu hii ni malengo yangu ya baadaye na sio baadaye nisema ni kesho na leo, ni malengo yangu ya leo na kesho na kesho. Ni kuwasaidia watoto wa kike kuwafikisha pale wanapotaka katika malengo yao, kwa sababu mtoto wa kike akiwa na kazi na akiwa na kipato kidogo kwenye familia kuna furaha fulani, tofauti na mtoto wa kike akiwa tegemezi na familia inakuwa kidogo si ya kuchangamka kutokana na hali halisi ya
Well, quite interesting, isn't it? Breaking the barriers with the fist. Now, Kenyan double Olympic champion Eliud Kipchoge won the Tokyo Marathon. The 37-year-old running legend failed, however, to break his own world record of 2 hours, 1 minute and 39 seconds set in Berlin in 2018. Last year, Kipchoge also took the Olympic title at the Tokyo Olympics. In the women's race, 28-year-old Kenyan Bridget Kosgei, also a world record holder, won in 2 hours, 16 minutes and 2 seconds. She had finished second at the Tokyo Olympics behind her compatriot Perez Jepchirchir. Now, a Ghanaian politician and businessman has submitted a bid to buy English Premier League club Chelsea. In a letter that went viral on social media on Wednesday, March 9th, 2022, the 45-year-old Bernard Antwi, popularly known as Chairman Wontumi, said that he has made a bid for $3.1 billion. He hopes to become the first African owner of the European champions Chelsea. Top football stars like Manchester United's Cristiano Ronaldo and Paris Saint-Germain's Lionel Messi are among those he said he hoped to sign if he is successful with his bid. And with that, we wrap up Africa Update for this week. Join us next week for another edition of the program. Thank you for watching. Connect with us via our social media platforms and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. I am Ayuba Ilya. Bye for now.